I think people are lying when they say they want freedom. And I don't mean this in some dramatic political way, like everyone secretly wants to be oppressed or controlled or told what to believe. No, I mean it in much more embarrassing, normal, everyday way. I think a lot of people don't actually want freedom. They want someone to tell them what to do. And I get it. Honestly, I get it. Because freedom sounds amazing when you don't have it. When you're a kid, freedom is like this magical thing. You imagine it as staying up as late as you want, eating whatever you want, going wherever you want, buying whatever you want. Nobody asking questions. Nobody telling you to clean your room. Nobody telling you who you should be. It sounds like peace. But then you actually grow up and freedom starts to feel less like peace and more like, okay, now what? Like, okay, you can do anything. Now choose. Choose who you want to become. Choose what you want to do with your life. Choose where you want to live. Choose what kind of person you want to be. Choose your career, your friends, your body, your values, your relationships, your entire future, basically. And suddenly, freedom doesn't feel like a beautiful open field anymore. It feels like standing in front of too many doors, knowing that whatever door you choose, you're also choosing to lose all other ones. And I think that's the part people don't talk about enough. Freedom is not just the ability to choose. Freedom is the fact that after you choose, you have to live with it. And that is terrifying because when someone tells you what to do, at least you have someone to blame. If your parents choose your path, you can blame your parents. If society pushed you into something, you can blame society. If your boss controls your life, you can blame your boss. If the system is against you, you can blame the system. And sometimes that blame is completely fair, obviously. But when nobody's forcing you anymore, when nobody's standing there with a clear instruction, when the decision is actually yours, then it becomes much more comfortable. Because now, if you ruin your life, it feels personal. And I think that's why so many people are constantly looking for instructions. Not because they are stupid, not because they are weak, but because being free is exhausting. People don't always want control. They want relief. They want someone or something to say, do this, go there, love this person, leave that person, build this body, choose this career, follow this routine, believe this, become this. Just tell me what to do so I can stop carrying the whole weight of my life alone. And honestly, I think we all do this in different ways. Some people ask their parents. Some people ask religion. Some people ask TikTok. Some people ask podcasts. Some people ask astrology. Some people ask ChatGPT. Some people ask the universe for a sign and then pretend the sign was not just them wanting permission. And I'm not even judging because I do this too. But maybe that's exactly the point. Welcome, I'm Angelina. Maybe we don't want freedom as much as we want permission that feels like freedom. And I think the funny thing is that we usually imagine freedom in the most childish way possible. Like when people say they want to be free, they usually imagine the nice parts. They imagine waking up whenever they want, traveling, making their money, living alone, wearing what they want, dating who they want, saying no, leaving whenever they feel like it, having no one above them. And obviously, that sounds amazing. I mean, who wouldn't want that? But that's not the full experience of freedom. That's just the aesthetic of freedom. That's the Instagram version. That's the part where you're drinking coffee in a different city and pretending you're a mysterious person with a completely new life. Real freedom is much more annoying. Real freedom is waking up and realizing nobody's going to structure your day for you. Nobody's going to tell you what matters. Nobody's going to force you to become disciplined. Nobody's going to come into your room and say, hey, maybe stop destroying your life. You have to do it yourself. And I think that's where people start getting uncomfortable. Because when you're controlled, at least the shape of your life is given to you. You may hate it, but at least you know what you're reacting against. You know who the enemy is. You know what the rule is. You know where the walls are. But when you're free, the walls disappear and somehow that can feel even worse. Because now there is no clear enemy. There is no obvious villain. There is just you, your choices, your habits, your excuses, your phone, your fear, your weird little coping mechanisms, and the uncomfortable silence of your life. And honestly, I think this is why so many people are secretly nostalgic of being told what to do. Not literally, not in a please control me way, but in a softer way. People miss school because school gave them a structure. People miss having a clear path because at least they knew what the next step was. Pass the exam, get the grade, apply here, do this, don't do that, be this kind of person. And suddenly you become an adult and everyone is like, okay, now build a meaningful life. Excuse me, with what instructions? And the worst part is that everyone pretends this is exciting. Everyone says you can be anything you want. And that sounds inspiring until you realize that being anything means you can become nothing in particular. You can waste years, you can choose wrong, you can stay too long, you can leave too early. You can become a person you don't even recognize, and there may be no dramatic moment where someone stops you. That's what freedom is. It's not just opportunity. It's also the possibility of quality ruin your own life without anyone interrupting. And I think that's why people love rules more than they admit. Rules can be suffocating, yes, but they're also comforting. A rule says, here's the line, here's what you're supposed to do, here's what makes you good, here's what makes you safe. Freedom does not do that. Freedom just opens the door and says, go on. And then you stand there like an idiot, waiting for someone to tell you which direction is the correct one. So maybe people don't hate freedom, maybe they just hate how exposed it makes them feel. This is where people get defensive, because when you say you want someone to tell you what to do, it sounds like an insult. It sounds like you're calling people weak or stupid or submissive, like they basically want to be controlled. But I don't think that's it. I don't think most people wake up and think, please, I would love to be controlled today. Obviously not. People don't want control, they want relief. That's different. They want relief from the pressure of having to figure everything out alone. Because life is a lot. Like, genuinely, you have to know who you are, what you want, what do you believe in, what you should do with your body, your money, your career, your relationships, your face, your future, your childhood wounds, your attachment style, your sleep schedule, your protein intake, your personal brand, your 5-year plan, your healing journey, your boundaries, your purpose. At some point, it's like, can someone please just give me a PDF? And that's why people love systems so much. A morning routine, a diet plan, a workout split, a productivity method, a skincare routine, spiritual practice, a dating rule, a career roadmap, a personality test, a diagnosis, a label, a mentor, a life coach, a guru with good line and suspicious confidence. And I'm not even saying all of that is bad. Some structure is necessary. Sometimes you really do need a plan. Sometimes your life is a mess because you keep pretending that going with the flow is a personality trait when you actually just have no discipline. So I get it. Rules can be useful. Systems can help. Advice can save you from doing something incredibly stupid, which is honestly a beautiful service. But I think there is a point where it stops being guidance and becomes emotional outsourcing. Like, you're not asking for advice anymore. You're asking someone else to carry the discomfort of choosing. You're asking someone to make the decision feel less like yours. And I think people do this all the time. They ask 10 different people for advice, not because they don't want the answer, but because they want one of them to say the answer they already want, so they can finally feel allowed to do it. And I hate how relatable that is, because sometimes you don't want wisdom. You want permission. Permission to leave, permission to stay, permission to stop trying, permission to try harder, permission to become someone else, permission to admit you want more, permission to admit you're tired, permission to do the thing you already knew you wanted to do 3 mental breakdowns ago. By the way, check my previous video about permissions in our lives. The link appeared here. And the funny thing is, we rarely say it like that. We don't say, please give me permission to live my own life. That would be too embarrassing. So we say, I'm just getting perspective. I'm just researching. I'm just waiting for the right moment. I'm just listening to my intuition. I'm just seeing what the universe is trying to tell me. And maybe sometimes we are. But sometimes we are just scared. Scared that if we choose without someone proving it, that the consequences will belong to us completely. And that is the relief people are looking for. Not control, not oppressing, relief. A voice outside of their own head saying, do this, so for 1 second they don't have to be alone with the terrifying freedom of deciding. And I think the strangest part is that people don't even need some powerful person to control them anymore. They will literally go and find one. Not always a person, actually. Sometimes it's a system, sometimes it's an app, sometimes it's a podcast, but the impulse is the same. Tell me what to do, tell me what to eat, tell me how to wake up, tell me how to date, tell me what my red flags are, tell me if I'm avoidant or anxious or just emotionally bored, tell me if I should move, tell me if I should stay, tell me if I should quit, tell me if I'm healing or just becoming more annoyed with better vocabulary. And I know that sounds funny, but actually I think it's kind of dark. Because a lot of modern life is just people trying to outsource the burden of being a person. We don't want to say, please tell me what to be. That sounds humiliating, that sounds too honest. So we make it sound smarter. We say, I'm researching, I'm working on myself, I'm entering my new era, I'm trying to understand my patterns, I'm waiting for a sign, I'm listening to my intuition. And maybe we are. Sometimes that's real. Sometimes you really are healing, learning, becoming more aware. I'm not making fun of that. But also sometimes, let's be honest, I'm waiting for a sign just means I already know what I want, but I need the universe to take legal responsibility for it. And I respect that. I really do. Because making choices is embarrassing. Wanting things is embarrassing. Admitting you want a different life is embarrassing. It's so much easier to pretend something outside of you choose it first. Like, oh, this video appeared on my For You page, so maybe it's meant for me. Or this podcast episode came at the perfect time. Or I asked ChatGPT and it said I should do it. Which is insane, by the way, because imagine explaining that to someone from even 20 years ago. Like, yes, I consulted the glowing rectangle and it told me to change my life. Very normal, very spiritually grounded. But we do this because the new authorities don't look like authorities. They don't wear crowns. They don't sit on thrones. They don't come at us in some dramatic voice. They look like advice. They look like content. They look like aesthetics. They look like self-improvement. They look like becoming your best self. And that's what makes them so easy to obey. Because when someone orders you around, you can resist. But when the instruction feels like your own idea, you call it freedom. That's the genius of it. We didn't get rid of authority. We just made it more beautiful, more personal, more algorithmic, more customizable. Now everyone gets to choose their own little master, a fitness influencer, a productivity system, a political identity, a spiritual belief, a relationship coach, a therapist language account, a money guru, a beauty standard, a lifestyle aesthetic, a comment section full of strangers who somehow become the joy of your life. And I'm not saying all influence is bad, obviously not. We need other people, we need ideas, we need mirrors. Sometimes someone says one sentence and it genuinely saves you years. But there is a difference between receiving guidance and disappearing into it. There is a difference between learning from someone and quietly handing them the steering wheel. And I think that's where many people are now. They don't feel controlled because they choose the thing that controls them. And maybe that's the most modern version of obedience. And I think this is the part people hate the most, even if they never say it directly. Choice makes everything your fault. Not always completely obviously, life is complicated. Some people really are trapped in situations they didn't choose. Some people are born into circumstances that limit them before they even understand what choice is. So I'm not saying everyone has the same freedom, because that would be stupid. But still, on some level, the moment you are allowed to choose, something changes. Because now you're involved. Now it's not just something that happened to you. It's something you participated in, something you allowed, something you stayed in, something you returned to, something you ignored, something you kept choosing because it was familiar or comfortable or because the alternative scared you more. And that is such an ugly feeling, because when someone else tells you what to do, at least there's a kind of protection in that, a miserable protection, but still, you can say, I had no choice. You can say, they made me. You can say, this is just how things are. You can say, what I was supposed to do. And sometimes that is true. But sometimes it becomes convenient. Sometimes I had no choice really means I didn't want to face the price of the other choice. And I think people build entire lives inside that sentence. They stay in relationships they hate. They stay in careers that drain them. They stay in cities they resent. They stay inside versions of themselves they outgrew years ago, because at least that way they can tell themselves they were stuck. And being stuck is painful, but being free is embarrassing, because if you're stuck, You can be pitied. If you're free, you have to be honest. You have to admit that maybe nobody's coming, maybe nobody's going to give you the perfect moment, maybe nobody's going to hand you a clean, painless version of the life you want, maybe the door has been open for a while and the reason you haven't walked through it is not because you couldn't, it's because you were scared of what would happen after. And I hate that because it makes freedom feel less romantic. It's not just follow your dreams and be yourself and choose your path. Sometimes freedom is looking at your own life and realizing you have been quietly choosing the thing you complain about. Not because you love it, but because it lets you wear the chair of choosing something else. And I think this is why people secretly love instructions. Instructions protect you from self-knowledge. They give you a role. They give you an excuse. They let you say, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do. And that can feel safer than saying, I choose this because I choose this means the life is yours. The mistake is yours. The wasted time is yours. The desire is yours. The fear is yours. The responsibility is yours. And maybe that's the real reason people want someone to tell them what to do. Not because they love obedience, but because obedience gives them somewhere to hide. A lot of people don't want a better life. They want a life where they can explain why it never happened. And I'm saying all of this like I'm somehow above it, but I'm really not. I do this too. I also look for signs. I also ask people for advice when deep down I already know what I want them to say. I also pretend I'm thinking about it when actually I'm just waiting for the decision to stop feeling scary. And it never does. That's the annoying part. I think sometimes we imagine that the right choice will feel completely peaceful. Like one day you will wake up and suddenly everything will be obvious. The fear will disappear, the doubt will disappear, the guilt will disappear, the universe will send you some cinematic confirmation, maybe a white bird will fly past your window, the lighting will be perfect, and you just know. But most of the time, life is not that generous. Most of the time, you don't get a perfect sign. You just get tired of betraying yourself. And maybe that's the closest thing to clarity, but still, I get why people wait. I get why people ask everyone else first. Because it feels safer when someone else says it for you. It feels safer when another person looks at your life and says, yes, you're allowed to leave. Yes, you're allowed to want more. Yes, you're allowed to change. Yes, you're allowed to become someone different. And honestly, sometimes that is beautiful. Sometimes we really do need another person to remind us that we are not insane for wanting what we want. Sometimes advice is not control. Sometimes advice is care. Sometimes someone sees us more clearly than we see ourselves because we are too deep inside our own fear. So I don't want to pretend that asking for help is weak. It's not. But there is a difference between asking for help and asking someone to live your life for you. There is a difference between wanting perspective and wanting permission to exist. And I think I have done both. I have asked for advice because I genuinely needed it. And I have asked for advice because I wanted someone else to be responsible for my courage, which sounds dramatic, but I think that's what it was. I didn't want information. I wanted someone to make the choice feel less lonely. And maybe that's what so much advice seeking really is. It's not about the answer. It's about not wanting to be alone in the moment before the answer becomes real. Because once you choose, the fantasy dies a little. Before you choose, everything is still possible. You can still imagine every version of yourself. The version that stays, the version that leaves, the version that becomes successful, the version that starts over, the version that never gets hurt, the version that somehow makes the perfect decision and loses nothing. But choosing kills all the other versions. And that's why people delay it. They call it patience. They call it timing. They call it being rational. They call it waiting for clarity. And sometimes, yes, it is. But sometimes it's just grief in advance. You're grieving all the lives you won't live before you even have the courage to live one of them. So yes, I understand why people want someone to tell them what to do. Because choosing yourself sounds empowering until you realize it also means disappointing every other version of yourself. And no one really teaches you how to do that. So maybe the point is not that freedom is bad. I don't think that. I think freedom is necessary. I think people need it. I think something inside a person starts dying when every part of their life is chosen for them. When you can say no. when you can't leave, when you can't change, when you can't even imagine yourself outside the role someone gave you. That's not safety, that's just a slower form of disappearing. So no, I don't think the answer is to give up freedom and let someone else live your life for you. That's not the point. But I also don't think real freedom is this childish fantasy of doing whatever you want forever. Because that version of freedom is usually just chaos with better branding. Do whatever you want, chase every impulse, avoid every discomfort, leave whenever something becomes difficult. Call every commitment a cage. Call every responsibility negative energy. Call every person who expects something from you toxic. And then wonder why your life has no shape. That's not freedom, that's just being controlled by your own impulses instead of another person. And maybe this is the part we get wrong. We think freedom means having no rules, no limits, no obligations, no one to answer to. But life with no limits is not automatically free. Sometimes it's just empty because you need a shape. You need something to return to. You need something you are building. You need something you are willing to disappoint other possibilities for. And maybe real freedom is not escaping every structure. Maybe real freedom is choosing the structure you are willing to belong to. Choosing your discipline, choosing your work, choosing your people, choosing your standards, choosing what you will protect, choosing what you will not negotiate with anymore, choosing the kind of pain that actually means something to you. Because either way, life will limit you. Time will limit you. Your body will limit you. Money will limit you. Other people will limit you. Your choices will limit you. Even your dreams will limit you, because the moment you choose one dream seriously, you have to abandon 100 other fantasies. So the question is not, how do I live with no limits? You won't. The question is, which limits do I choose on purpose? And I think that is where freedom becomes adult. Not pretty, not aesthetic, not some cinematic image of you running away into a new city with perfect lighting and a perfect playlist. Real freedom is quieter than that. It is looking at your life and saying, this is mine, this is what I choose, this is what I am responsible for. These are the rules I accept, these are the rules I refuse, this is the person I'm willing to become, and this is the price I'm willing to pay for it. And no, it will never feel completely safe. No choice does. There will always be doubt, there will always be regret, there will always be some other version of your life standing in the corner looking at you like you betrayed it. But maybe freedom is not the absence of regret. Maybe freedom is no longer needing someone else to approve the regret before you can survive it. So yes, maybe you do want someone to tell you what to do. Maybe we all do sometimes. But at some point you have to stop waiting for the perfect instruction. At some point you have to choose your own limits, your own direction, your own cage, your own meaning. Because you don't become free when nobody tells you what to do. You become free when you stop needing someone else to bless the life you already know you want. Anyway, that's what I found when I started asking a very simple question. Do we actually want freedom, or do we just want someone to tell us what to do?